welcome back, Tomo. Today we're going to have a chat about how we're going to manage our lambs, and we're going to go through how we do it at Moojepin. So we're going to cover, if you want to listen and want to learn a little bit about how we do it at Moojepin, we're going to go over scan for multiples, prioritise twin-bearing ewes, how we create smaller lambing mobs, pre-lambing vaccinations. We're going to cover the concept that feed drives survival, and more lambs create more options. So let's kick it off, Tomo. Let's start with some of the reasons why that we scan for multiples and how that impacts the way we manage our sheep flock.
Well, scanning is fundamental. To get more lambs, you've got to scan. So I still in disbelief that people don't scan, and if they do scan, they only scan for wet and dry. It doesn't make any sense to me if you want to try and get more lambs. So the only way to get more lambs is to get more lambs out of your twins. So find your multiples and treat them differently. Give them the Rolls-Royce treatment to get those lambs to survive and thrive. That's the thing. There's no point in having more lambs if they're not good sappy lambs. Many times you hear people say, I'd rather one good lamb than two scrappy lambs. Well, they're only probably scrappy lambs because of the management and the feed. So scanning is so important. If you're not scanning, well, just do it.
Yeah, it's a great starting point. And back over the years, I've certainly spoken to and recommended that they're the best. A scanner is the best sheep classer from a commercial dollar return perspective that come onto the property.
Yep.
Know where your lambs are.
Yep.
Is just such an incredible tool.
Yeah, and then you can get rid of your dries. It's another way of getting rid of the sheep that aren't pulling their weight, and also it might be your management. Are you only scanning at 110? So there's obviously something wrong if you're down in that part of the world, and you learn how to get it up to 160, 170.
Well, it's amazing what a resource those scanners are. Like they get to see every different shade of the rainbow and performance. And I know, speaking to lots of scanners, they pay particular attention to the people that are performing well.
That's right.
And it's not luck.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you've got your twin bearers and their condition score 2.7, you're going to be in trouble. You really are going to be in trouble. So, because it's really hard to put condition on sheep once they're in that third trimester, you virtually cannot feed them enough to get them up a condition score. So you're going to be in trouble. So you've got to learn from that on how to manage your sheep, and scan it 6 weeks after rams come out and look after them. Those twinners, absolutely look after them.
So you touched a couple of things there, Tomo. Like it's like we want to get our sheep on a rising plane. A lot of people or some people are using teasers out there. When we've got the scanner booked on the phone, we're making sure that we haven't got the sheep slipping in condition, and we have got them on that rising plane. Tell us about what that sort of looks like from rams in through to when we scan, so that we've got that, so that we're giving ourselves the best chance to scan as many fetuses as possible.
Condition score. Know what you've got. All right, get your hands on the sheep and get the condition score. If you are sitting at 2.7 prior to rams going in, you got to get your skates on and get them up. So 2 months before, 3 months before, work out where they are, and also the rams. Don't forget the rams. Make sure they're cherry ripe for going in. So that's the other thing.
So you got them at condition score what, Tomo? Like what number do you ideally?
So we work when we wean the lambs off the ewes. That's when we work. That's when we start the next joining, to work for the next joining. So get them back in condition score 3 with grass, and as quickly as possible. And that's where we'll go back to why fat is a big thing. But get them back as quickly as you can into condition score 3. Then you can maintain them. Condition score 3 is perfect for mating. Absolutely perfect. Yep.
Just have them humming along at condition score 3.
Yeah, but don't let them slip in that period before the rams go in. So, I know it's harvest time and all that sort of stuff, but keep an eye and just run them in and just put your hand on them and say, right, they're sitting at around that 3.1, 3.2. Brilliant. Very easy to do. Yep.
It's great to have some numbers around that. I had a phone call this morning from a fellow who has got his singles on what he would call bitumen road, and he was complaining that they were actually putting on condition too much. He was worried that the singles were going to be too fat. So how do you go about managing those twins versus singles?
Well, that's the point. Is you've got the problem is with this, if you don't scan and you're feeding to the twinners, the singles are going to have huge lambs. You're going to have dystocia issues. So that's why it's important. So it's monitoring the condition score, and we feed accordingly. So making sure that the twins almost get unlimited amount of feed to make sure they get a condition score. And same with the singles. You don't want them too fat, because you want your lambs to be around that 4.5 kilos. You don't be getting 6, 7, 8 kilo lambs. So that's important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how that actually frees you up with that, how you treat your singles. Like often season can fluctuate, but once you can get those single bearing ewes in and away from where the real game is, which is making sure those twins are well looked after, it's profound, the change. Some people are scanning for triplets. Do you manage triplets separately?
Yeah, we generally have we're not a great fan of triplets, mainly with lamb survival, but we do have a section of creek line with bush in it that we put them in there.
Okay.
We don't get that many triplets, but maybe we need to do a bit more. But I'd rather have folks on the twins.
Yes.
Get those to survive. Yeah.
And when we're focusing on our twin bearers, it then leads to, well, how do we manage 1,000 twin bearing ewes? How do you go about managing those ewes once they are the twin bearers? Other than putting as much feed in front, what other things are you doing?
Well, lambing paddock selection is really, really important for the twin bearers. So you don't want them in a paddock on top of the hill where they're going to get the prevailing winds and mob size. So you want to cut the mob size down. There's plenty of research showing the more reduced numbers in a mob, the higher the survivability. But if we can, we'd like to get our twin bearers down to a mobs of 60 odd, and in plenty of cover. So a low-lying country with cover crops that we put in, so the sheep can lamb and don't have to go far for feed. They just and not too many of them, because if you do get a windy day, they'll all go to the corner of a paddock, and you've got 30 ewes lambing, and there's 60 lambs there. It can be a bit of a mess.
So it's not just 60. It's making sure that it's not 60 in a 2-acre paddock. It's making sure that they've got a bit of it's shelter, but also they've got their own little private space to have their land.
That's correct. And when we start lambing, we don't go around them every day to check. So that's where they are, and we just leave them be. But we have a very short joining period, so we join for 21 days or 20 days roughly. So it's a very short window, and they come in a bit of a rush. But it's really that first 48 hours is really important to get that bonding and get them up and away.
Can I just ask there, Tomo, like I understand the reasons to pull back that joining time. How are your sheep performing with a short window like that? Like, what sort of conception rates are we getting? And if you've got empties, do you put rams back out? Like, how do you manage them?
Well, it's interesting, like you were saying before, about how the scanners are very good sheep classes, because we actually did for 2 years, maybe 3 years, with the scanner. We asked it for him to do earlies and lates on a 5 week. And we end up with about 80% as an early. So we thought, righto, well, let's just go with that 3 week and see. And that first year we did it, we were a little bit nervous when the scanner came. But
I bet.
So no difference, virtually no difference in conception. Like, we were sitting around that, 160 conception for a 3 week join. So Yeah, and for management wise, it's so much easier for weaning. You know, I think if things are tough, you can wean them all off in one go. I mean, there's still plenty of people around here that'll join for 7 or 8 weeks, and it can be just coming to weaning. But it's such a good tool to be able to do, and you know, it's the first time you do it. It is a worry, but you've also got to make sure that you get it right. Everything's got to be cherry ripe to go, rams and ewes. And in our environment, we don't put rams back in. Plenty of people, maybe on the East Coast, who've got an extended season, but for us, we don't want to be lambing later in the year when things dry off. So for us, it's a one crack, and we'll never go back to a long joint.
I like it from the perspective of rewarding the sheep that are performing. Like what I've seen is that there's some nervous and some trepidation, and the first time, maybe into the second time, there's ewes that are sneaking into your core breeding flock, and I don't mean at your place, but I'm talking generally here, where you actually want those good sheep that conceive in the first trimester, like that they're actually getting pregnant in the first season, that you're then able to then go, well, righto, these animals are out, these animals are in, we look after those because they're the ones that are driving the returns, and your sheep flock changes very quickly.
You want the early ovulators. That's what you want. You want when the rams go in, the ewe said, righto, I'm ready to go. Bang.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You don't want to be keeping these ones that might come on on the third cycle. I mean, they get one cycle, and that's it. So it's a little bit of trepidation to start with, but I'm glad we had a crack at it, and it's terrific.
As you said, you wouldn't go back.
No way. Just at weaning time in particular is just such a good time because the lambs are all the same age, near enough, and it's terrific. Yeah.
It's often mentioned that people are using hot wires and those sort of things to cut down the size of paddocks, and we talked a little bit about privacy for ewes and all the rest of it. Take me through how, in the way you guys do it, when you're using hot wires to separate paddocks.
Yeah, well, what we do is we sow all the pasture every year. So the pasture for the livestock, for the sheep. So we'll sow that in March. So that's vetch and forage barley as the lambing paddock mix. So that'll come in, and hopefully it rains, and away it goes. And the idea is to have 30 centimeters of cover when we put the ewes into lamb. So that's the target. So even though it's been a really tough start here, I think we'll be right on track for that. So they'll go in probably 10 days prior to lambing, and we have a mobile hot wire thing on the quad bike that we can split up the paddocks into whatever size, 10, 20 hectares, whatever it might be. And once the sheep know about the hot wires, it's pretty good. So we can split up paddocks very easily, very quickly.
Some people are a little worried at times about water for when they're doing that kind of split up. Just how do you say, righto, this is a year when there's plenty of moisture in the grass, we're only going to keep these ewes in this sort of confined space for 3 weeks, whatever it is. Just take us through that piece, Simon.
Well, because it's in July, so and it's probably the coldest, wettest month of the year, we were really stressed out about the water, but we don't worry about it at all now. So there's no water. So everything is from the cereal and the veg. That's where they get it from. But they're only in there until they finish lambing, and then we pull the fence down and they get access to water. So it's be different if you had dry feed and stuff, but it's purely on grass, and we've been doing it now for God knows, I don't know, over a decade, and we never had an issue. So
on a 21-day joining, is it a month that you've got them in behind a hot wire, or is it just that 21 days? Like how do you gauge that?
They'll go in sort of 10 days prior, roughly, like 10 days prior.
Yeah.
It might be 7 to 10 days post. just depending,
Yes.
and that's one thing I think we probably need to do more, as an industry, like the cattle game, is do gestation length. So we want gestation length to be sub 150s. So if we can be
Yes.
around 144, 145, what we don't want is to be 155.
Yes.
150.
Yeah.
The lambs are growing, you're going to have problems. So I think we need to put a bit more pressure on gestation length to make sure that we don't end up with 6, 7, 8 kilo lambs and having
Yes.
issues. But I think last year we pulled 2 lambs. I think that's, but and having we don't really check, but you just might see a sheep, but that's it. 2 lambs that we would have pulled last year.
I think that I don't, and you can probably answer, well, I'm sure you can answer the question better than me, but certainly that gestation length seems very aligned with selection for early maturing type traits. What's your feel there, Tomo? Like,
I still think there's not enough data in there, but it's and I think we've got to learn from the cattle boys, that we make sure that that we actually don't lose sight of that fact that I see plenty of people in the UK and stuff, got a 10-kilo lamb. I mean, that's the last thing on earth we want to have.
Horrific
lambs, and that's the thing. Been to Europe in the last month, and just sheep in Sweden, they virtually pull every lamb. And that's what they like about it. Our sheep over there is that you don't need to pull them; they just pop out. So, that's, I think that's a big thing. But going forward, but I think gestation length is something we've got to keep an eye on, and maybe more records need to be kept on that. So when the rams went in, when the lambs are born, are we on track?
Do you sense that when you're joining new lambs, for example, that their first season is coming earlier, or do you think that's a part of the understanding how our sheep flock is shifting genetically, Tomo?
How do you mean coming forward?
Well, when the ewe lamb will first cycle, like often, like back in the day, people would say, "Oh, the first cycle is a quiet cycle," and then they cycle properly. You need to wait until they're 10 months old before you put the ram out. What's your feeling in that space?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, 9 or 10 months old, and people say, the ewe lambs, and that's fine. But for us, we want those ewe lambs to drop their lambs at the same time as all the rest of the flock. So
yes,
that's why we go to 6 or 7 months. Okay, and we were told it wasn't possible, but it actually is possible, and we've seen the results of actually continually selecting rams born out of ewe lambs and putting them back in. But we actually get a lot more ewe lambs in lamb. We do give them, they get teasers, and we do give them 5 weeks just to make sure that we treat them a little bit softer.
Yes.
But it's just amazing to see, like, ewes lambing 1 year since they were born. It just blows my mind.
It's so fascinating. Like, I can remember talking to people when I was, joining composite ewe lambs around the shop, and people would look at me as if to say, "Oh, that's bloody cruel, putting the ram in when they're only a ewe lamb." But the times have changed. People have understood that the genetic capabilities there, and one of the things that's impressed me about you and Hamish has been that you gave it a try, and then you realised, oh, hold on, there's something really different here, and by rewarding those ewe lambs with that opportunity, you find out which ones actually are your early maturers and ready to perform at 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, and I still, people still say it's just a gimmick, and it's not for the industry, but we've been doing it now since 2010, and it's standard practice here. And every sheep we've got here now has got a lamb inside them, so that's terrific, I reckon. And the argument that their life is shortened, or their productive life is shortened, is absolutely the total opposite of that is the case. I mean, just incredible to see how they perform whole of life. It's continually blows my mind how maternal they are at that age, and it's a bit like a 14-year-old girl having a kid that all they want to do is muck around together. It's quite interesting watching them muck around on the paddock. They're all dancing, jumping around, and yeah. But I think it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever done in sheep breeding is ewe lamb joining.
Yeah, from the ram perspective, I love seeing in the catalogue that we've got the rams, and we've got whether like those rams that are out of ewe lambs, and the inquiry and the way people are chasing them. I really do believe that the industry is understanding that there's an opportunity there to be able to move your flock with those kind of sheep. Like not every ram can be out of a ewe lamb, but it's certainly sending a really strong signal genetically that these sheep have the capability to be able to do that again.
Well, that's the best way. If you can select those rams that are out of ewe lambs, the genes are carrying forward. And it will make a huge difference to the conception of those ewe lambs. And that's, again, you go back to a breeding value, that the Wycon, like we watch that all the time now to see, where we're going. And it's and I urge people, commercial people, if they're looking at doing that, seek out rams that have high Wycon, because the data it will help. So find out who's doing it and who's doing it well, and hook in.
No, I love it, Tom. I just think it's so good. And, like everybody wins in that scenario because we're speeding up the genetic interval, like having an age group that walks around the farm looking at grass and drinking water and doing nothing maybe other than growing a fleece. It just seems wasteful to me that we're not chasing that as an industry more strongly.
Absolutely agree. And I think we missed an opportunity with the MLP trial, Merino lifetime production, that we weren't mating the lambs as ewe lambs to see what genetics was doing. Some are doing well, some are doing not, but that's what we need to find out, because there's so many sheep that go through, as you say, as dry sheep through that first year, when they could actually be providing lambs.
Yes, yeah, into production. Tell me this, Tomo, that we want to manage our sheep from a health perspective strongly, and no 2 years are alike, but lamb vaccinations are a given. Just tell us about how you guys do it.
Well, just the pre-lamb vaccination, just before they lamb, it's just good to give them. We just give them all the vaccinations, the pre-lambing one, and then you're on track. So don't forget, don't do it 3 days before they're going to lamb. Just a bit of time, get them in, and this is the only time that we will give the ewes a drench, because we just don't want to get caught midway through lambing and with a worm problem. So we'll give them a drench and the vaccinations that they require, and to make sure that the lambs are born healthy, and because they're worth a lot of money now.
Yeah.
And that's, we lose 40% between scanning and weaning. We've got to get that back. We've got to halve that as a minimum, because we've got to get more lambs from less ewes. I mean, everyone's saying, where are all the ewes going to come from? Well, if you can lift your weaning percentage from mid-80s to mid-120s, that makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
I don't. This isn't asking you to boast, Tomo, but one of the things that Moojepin does really well is actually the fertility piece. So we do all this preparation, and then we've got extra capability in as far as having ewes that will create embryos for us to carry through to lambs. Tell me a little bit about that, making sure that we keep those fetuses alive, that we turn them into opportunities to go to market with, whether it's a wether lamb or a ewe lamb. Like what are we doing at Moojepin that takes advantage of that extra percentage? Because I see a big gap between somebody who flocks that are scanning at 120, 130 and where you guys are scanning at the moment, and where your clients flocks are scanning.
Yeah, but it's the scanning thing is the stuff you take to the pub,
Yep.
that doesn't make any money whatsoever. I mean, and Merinos can scan it, in the high 160s, 170s. It's about getting live lambs. That's where the management comes in. The genetics won't do it all, but you've got to be on your game. So that goes back to condition score when the rams go in, making sure that's when it starts. Way back then.
So are you setting targets like? Do you want to get 90% survival, 85%?
Yes. Yeah. We're sitting around 84, 85, I think, at the moment, survival.
Yep.
I remember, I think Jason Trump he was here and doing a seminar, and he said, how many people here had 90% survival? And lots of people put their hands up, but they didn't know, they just guessed. So, it's not, it's hard. It is hard to get 90%. So that's the secret is to if you can go from losing 40% to losing 20%, that's a major shift. And if you can do 90%, you are in the top probably 1% of producers in the country. So that's what we've got to try and do. So that's everything from genetics to management to shelter, all that sort of stuff, to get those lambs alive, keep them alive, and make sure that they're in good condition. So feed is really, really important. And just making sure you keep an eye on the sheep. Don't forget the sheep, particularly for mixed farmers. At seeding time, I know it's time when there was limited feed, but you've got to make sure that you look after the sheep because they will reward you for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I love being able to compound that growth, fat and muscle piece into good management. And that's lovely. But I think it's that setting 90%, like some people will come to me and say, look, Ramo, I've started to look at the survival in different paddocks and identified that I do have parts of the farm where I consistently get more lambs, or there's an inconsistency. So, Ramo, what I've done is I've gone and planted a shelter belt, or I've excluded a certain part of the paddock when the ewes are actually lambing. Not everybody is putting lambs behind hot wires. And it's that extra effort. It's amazing how that number keeps creeping up towards 90 if you set that as a target. Without that target as an industry, we have too many dead lambs. We're not sending a good message to the rest of society that looks at farming and wants to put us under the microscope, I don't think.
Yeah, and don't blame the foxes and don't blame the eagles, because we've got foxes and eagles here, but it's an easy excuse that the foxes are taking all the lambs. I mean, I love going, moving our ewes and lambs with the dogs, and the ewes chase the dogs. So they absolutely hound them. So the ewes are strong; they will defend, and that's you've got to take some more responsibility as a manager for lamb losses, I think, anyway, because it is. And what we've done,
I'd certainly encourage.
So we've just got, back when I was younger, we were sort of maxed out at 85%, and now we're mid 130s. So it can be done. It can be done. Yeah. So
I'd encourage anybody that's listening to the pod to make sure that they have a look at what options are out there around management training, particularly any seminars that have been run or any education that's been offered around managing your ewes through that pregnancy cycle. Get on, do it. It'll pay dividends. There's a good ROI on that time that you spend trying to learn how to keep more lambs alive.
Well, I would find out who's doing really well and go and visit them and ask them what they're doing. Copy them.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's where you learn. So maybe than seminars, but you actually find out, okay, Billy Smith's doing really well. Go and ring him up and say, can I come and have a look at your setup and how you do it? And to me, that would be time well spent, because most farmers that I talk to are more than willing to actually give that information to people who ask for it.
Yeah, it's certainly, it amazes me the great nature of Australian sheep farmers that they do share. They do want to help if somebody asked for help, I can't remember anybody saying no.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've got to get more lambs from less ewes. I mean, the flock is shrinking. So where are we going to, we've just got to make sure that we lift that survivability, and that will help address the big issue we've got.
No, that's awesome, Tomo. Thanks very much for going through how you do it at Moojepin, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, well, good luck. All right, thanks, Ramo.